Why do we fail product interviews despite using frameworks? I've received offers from many of the top technology companies in the world, including places like Meta, Microsoft, and a few others. I've coached numerous people to up-level their skills and help them get offers at similar tech companies. Yet I see many people fail at product sense interviews, and I often get the question, I used a solid framework and I still failed. Why? In this video, I want to help you understand clearly what is happening, why you are failing, and what to do about it. There's 4 main reasons why candidates fail despite using frameworks. The first is that candidates often use the framework as a script. This usually happens to early to mid-stage candidates who just discovered that frameworks are essential. They're scared that anything they call out that is not part of the framework might be wrong and they might fail as a result. Because of this, they take the framework to an extreme and stick to the framework as if it were a script. In multiple cases, I have seen candidates not wanting to share their screen when going through an interview, which is totally fine. But during debrief, I asked the candidates that because they were not writing on paper and they were actually writing into their computer, what was the problem in sharing their screen? It actually would have been better for their communication to share their screen. That's when they say, I have a full pre-written workbook of sorts, and I just go and fill it out based on the question that you've asked. This is an extreme example of using a framework as a script. Everyone may not go as far as using a workbook, but they are thinking about the framework in the exact same way as a script. This causes some of the other mistakes we will also talk about. Remember, a framework is supposed to be a helper, an enabler of structure. So going forward, please use the framework as a guidepost, as a helper, not as a script. I recommend using the Discover toolkit to answer product sense questions. I created this specifically to help people have structure in their answers, but not get limited by a framework. Second, many people have not understood or internalized the framework. Like we already discussed, many people are using a framework because they know that this is what companies like Meta are looking for. But have you ever paused to think, why is the framework that way? Why is it not a different way? Why are they looking for these specific steps? Why are they not looking for something else? These frameworks are actually a subtle sequence of logical decision making, where micro decisions build into macro decisions. So understand why these frameworks are the way they are by breaking them down and by questioning them. Eventually, your frameworks will evolve from a framework to an internalized, logical sequence of decision making. This is why I call the Discover toolkit a toolkit, not a framework. If you use it blindly, it will fall back to becoming a framework, but I hope you don't do that. To go into the depths of it, you can also reach out to me using the link in the description below, and I can help you uncover the depths you might miss. Third, the pressure of following the framework is causing what I call bounded thinking. Many candidates exhibit bounded thinking due to uninternalized frameworks, limiting their responses, meaning thinking with blinders on and demonstrating very narrow thinking in their answers. I believe that if we were to ask these questions to them in a much more informal setting, like in a coffee shop or something, their responses will be a lot more carefree and much more realistic and all-encompassing. For people who are stuck in a framework, I often say, framework is where creativity goes to die. To overcome this, first, internalize the actual decision-making flow of the framework. Second, use the framework for practice questions with no time pressure. You can take an entire afternoon if you want for just one question. But in that attempt, demonstrate boundless thinking every step of the way. And eventually, you can start to introduce timing. Developing free, boundless thinking takes time and practice. So start early so you can develop this skill. Fourth and finally, you can't recover if we push you around. Interviewers really want to know deep down how you think. Sometimes this requires us to ask you follow-up questions. If a candidate is too rigid on their framework, we challenge them on certain aspects to see how they would respond. This is not some subtle agenda someone has if they are pushing you around. We have an obligation to do this. We have indirectly promised our company that we will help them hire and develop the best talent. So we really need to know how you really think. For many people, the moment they get pushed around and lose track of the framework, they're done. They're unable to demonstrate depth of thought, reasoning for their arguments, and eventually some panic sets in and they're unable to recover and come back to their framework. So the overall way to win in these is to not use the framework as a script. internalize the framework as a logical sequence of decision making. Practice first with no time limits, then practice with time limits, and then get your reps in. If you build that genuine sequence of logical decision making, every probe or every push from the interviewer will seem like a fun, exciting discussion and an opportunity to shine. If not, it will continue to be something you dread. So those are my learnings from 500 plus interviews on why people fail despite using the best frameworks. I hope this helps you see something new. My recommended next action for you is to learn about the Discover Toolkit, unpack it, tear it apart, understand why what is happening. Use it without any time limits and slowly introduce time limits that get your reps in. If you want to master it and need some help from someone who's done these interviews, passed them, and worked at some of these companies before, my information is in the details below. Good luck.